Guys, welcome to another video. You've got Mr. Everything English, and today guys we are visiting a topic that in my opinion is a very important topic. Now, what is the topic guys? We are doing English language paper 1 question 2, which is the same question essentially as paper 2 question 3. Now what's the question? Guys, the question is the language question. However guys, this question is super important. Why is it important? Because learning to explain the effect of language is what you must do for English Literature AO2. It's what you must do for paper 1 question 2, paper 1 question 4. It's what you must do for paper 2 question 3 and paper 2 question 4. It's an integral part of the English language exam. I think the answer is in the name of the exam, but it's a skill that we can't ignore. Now the two questions that zoom in to this skill are paper 1 question 2 and paper 2 question 3. Same question, same question. The only difference guys is that paper 1 question 2 is an 8-mark question, which means we give it 10 minutes and we write 2 paragraphs. And paper 2 question 3 is a 12-mark question, meaning we give it approximately 14 minutes and we write 3 paragraphs in that particular exam. One last difference is that in paper 1 question 2, they give you some support in the aid of bullet points, but in paper 2 question 3, they don't give it to you. But the crux, the core of the question is exactly the same. You must be able to explain the effect of language. Now, what do I mean when I say language? We're gonna go over it properly, guys. So I'm gonna pull up, I think I pulled up November 2020. We're gonna go through that paper 1 question 2. I'm gonna read, then we're gonna plan, and then we're gonna write the answer. I'll do 1 paragraph. Now, this time, I'm gonna write my paragraph with a board pen on the board. I'm not gonna type. Why? Because sometimes you might think, oh, but sir, you're typing, so you can work a lot faster. Just to prove a point, I'm gonna do it by hand on the board. Now, guys, if you haven't already, please do check out the Easter courses that I believe are, or not next 7 days, but the week after. On those courses, guys, the Macbeth Day course, the Inspector Calls Day course, the Romeo and Juliet Day course, the English Language Paper 1 and the Language Paper 2 Day course, we are going to cover everything. We meaning me and you. Now guys, if you do want to join, head over to the website, sign up, and I will hopefully see you on those days where we can get exam ready. Now, first things first guys, let's go over the question and then we'll plan, and then I'll write a paragraph which you can hopefully use for your exams. Alright guys, so here is an example of paper 1 question 2. Now let's go over it and look at the question. It says, look in detail at this extract from lines 14 to 23. So they've specified for us what we are looking at. This is not a full source question. This is just an extract focused question. So a paragraph or a couple of lines. Whereas paper 2 question 3 looks at the entire source. Let's read the question first. How does the writer use language? Now, what does the writer mean, or what does the question mean when it says, how does the writer use language? It's looking at words and phrases and language features and techniques. Now, when it says words and phrases, guys, essentially, this is my advice. All you want to see, if you can pick out, is verbs and adjectives. And when it says language features and techniques, it's talking about things like simile, metaphor, etc. So those are the 2 things that we are looking at. Now, I don't even bother talking about the effect of sentences for this question. Reason being because, number 1, we have enough when it comes to these 2 to talk about. And number 2, a lot of students end up giving a structural analysis for sentences rather than a language analysis. So why risk it, guys? There's no point. So what's the question? How does the writer use language? Meaning, how does the writer use verbs and adjectives and language devices to do what? How does the writer use all that to describe the garden? Now, just again, guys, some repetitive points I want to make. This is an 8-mark question, as I've explained. Therefore, we are spending 10 minutes on this question. And in 10 minutes, I want to produce 2 pretzel paragraphs. That is my target. Now, when I begin planning pretzel, if you're not familiar with it, you will become familiar with it. Okay, let's read the extract. Rosie had made a quick check of the unfamiliar garden before letting the children go out to play. The bottom half of the garden was an overgrown mess, a muddle of trees and shrubs. Straight away, guys, I found a language device. The writer here has used a rule of 3. Now, this is how you read and plan in your exam. You don't read and then just stare at the ceiling and then come back and read again. You read, you highlight, you answer, and you pick the stuff you're going to use for the question as you go along. Now, I need 2 because I'm doing 2 paragraphs. So really, I've got 1 already. Now I just need 1 more. An ancient mulberry street centre, its massive twisted branches droop to the ground in places, its knuckles in the earth like a gigantic malformed hand. I love that quote. Its knuckles in the earth like a gigantic malformed hand. Now, if you've watched my video on language devices, you will know, guys, you will know that the device that the writer has used here is indeed personification. Now, guys, technically I'm done. I've got my 2 devices about how the writer describes a garden. I've got rule of 3 and I've got personification. So that's me done. In your exam, my advice is have a quick read of the paragraph, but once you've picked your 2 language devices, if you feel confident enough to speak about them, move on, guys, move on. Don't waste time. Sometimes, guys, right, I'll see students and I'll look at their page and they've got a highlight there and a highlight there and a highlight there and a highlight there and a highlight there. And I ask them, how many paragraphs are you going to do? 15? Guys, remember, we're only doing 2 paragraphs. So once you got your 2, my advice is move on because it's an exam and the clock is ticking. Now, the paragraph structure, guys, that I advise that we use is PRETZL. PRETZL stands for point, reference, technique, explain, zoom in, explain, and link. Now, let's go over and look at the question one more time. How does the writer use language to describe the garden? That's what this question is asking me. Which one should we do, guys? We've got knuckles in the earth like a gigantic malformed hand. That's the branches. Or the garden was overgrown mess, a muddle of trees and shrubs. Let's do the first one. So my point for the first one, guys, is that the garden is chaotic and not looked after. Now, it's just a plan. I can add my detail later. Guys, it's just a plan. I can add my detail later. Now, for my reference, I'm not going to copy down the entire quote because it's literally up here. But for my reference, guys, this is the quote that I will be using. Then we move on to the T. The T is what technique has the writer used? Now, the reason I want to get technique here is because this is the second bullet point. So the technique here, guys, is rule of 3. Now, I'll come back and explain the effect. That's the first E. And this is a very important part of the paragraph. So I must explain the effect of the rule of 3 and how this shows that the garden is not looked after. Now, then we're going to zoom in. So I just picked out a language technique. Now we're going to zoom in to a word or a phrase. Let's go back to the quote. The garden was an overgrown mess, a muddle of trees and shrubs. Here, guys, I am going to zoom in to the adjective muddle. Guys, here I'm going to zoom into the adjective muddle. Then I'll explain the effect again. And my link is therefore, as you can see, and my link, guys, goes straight back to the top. Therefore, as you can see, the garden is chaotic and it is a mess. Now, the linking part of my paragraph, guys, is literally a 10-second job. I do that because I want to show the examiner that I've stayed on task. Now, this is one PRETZL paragraph. As I've explained, guys, in your exam, you are aiming for 2 of these. 5 minutes. Now, the P, the R, the T should take us no more than 30 seconds. Where we should be spending a lot of time, guys, is in the 2 E's. But let me finish the plan, and when I write the paragraph out on the board, you'll maybe get an idea of how this paragraph will look. So my point is that the garden is chaotic and not looked after. Then I insert my reference, which is at the top there. Then I pick out my technique, which is my rule of 3. Overgrown mess is 1, muddle of trees is 2, and the shrubs is the third element of this rule of 3. Then I will zoom in and talk about the effect of the adjective muddle. But first, let's just briefly, remember guys, this is just a plan. So I'm not going to go crazy with detail. I'm just going to do enough to give me some idea of what I want to talk about. Now, because it's a rule of 3, so first it says that the garden is a mess. Then it talks about the trees and the shrubs. I'm going to make a point that this emphasizes that everything is out of order. That's my first point. I'll explain more when I do the effect. But it's that idea, guys. It's not the fact that the trees are messy. Everything, the trees and the shrubs, and the entire garden as a whole is a complete mess. So everything is out of order is my first effect. My second effect, guys, muddle. Muddle, guys, it reinforces the idea of it being chaotic. And it almost gives the question that if you want to fix it, if you want to tidy up, where do you start? This garden, guys, it appears more like a jungle than it does a garden. And there is one pretzel paragraph planned. I now need to do 2 of these. So one's done and then one more. And that's it, guys. That's how you plan a paragraph for paper 1, question 2. And we would do the same thing for paper 2, question 3. Okay, now guys, again, I don't want to waffle. I don't want to waste your time. I've gone over the timings, how many paragraphs. I've just planned 1 paragraph. Now I should have 5 minutes. I should be taking no more than 5 minutes because I'm doing 2 paragraphs in 10 minutes, which means 1 paragraph should take me 5 minutes. Now on the board, guys, we're going to time 5 minutes. And in 5 minutes, I must write out this paragraph. All right, guys, now I've got my phone ready. I've got my timer on 5 minutes and I've got the plan up on my phone also. So I am now going to write up the entire paragraph within 5 minutes. Now I have to finish the paragraph because I can't be teaching pretzel if I can't do a paragraph myself. Now, I am doing the paragraph on the board, which I do think is harder than writing in a book, but I think I'll comfortably finish it in 5 minutes. Remember what I said earlier, guys? The P, the R, and the T, you want to get through that as fast as possible. You want to get to the E's because that's where the marks are. Now, it's not a massive question. It's an 8-mark question, 10 minutes, 2 paragraphs. They're not expecting 10 pages. 2 clean and clear paragraphs is what we are looking for. All right, guys, so 5 minutes to answer this question. Let me just make sure. Guys, want to check if it catches the writing. It's a little bit small. It's a little bit small, guys. How about if I wrote a little bit bigger? That's not much bigger, but that should do the job. Yes, perfect. All right, guys, I'm going to time myself 5 minutes. Let's begin now answering the question. I've started my timer, guys. I've started my timer. And I've got the plan up and let's go, guys. The writer in source A describes the garden as being extremely chaotic. There seems to be no order at all. This was my point. This can be seen when the writer, let me get my paper, guys. What was the quote? When the writer explains how the garden was an overgrown mess, a muddle of trees. Can you guys see that? Yep, perfect. A muddle of trees and shrubs. Full full stop, that's done guys. That is my reference. The rule of 3, and that is my technique. Alright guys, PRT done. Now I move on to my 2 effects. The rule of 3 strongly emphasizes how there is not just one thing out of order in this garden. Rather, the mess is never ending. What have I got, guys? Time wise, I've got halfway. I've got 2.5 minutes left on my clock. Strong emphasize how there's not just one thing out of order in this garden, rather the mess is never ending. It is as if we are the eyes of the writer. Every place, every point they look, the mess seems to be increasing threefold. Alright guys, can you see the board? Yeah, perfect. Now I'm going to zoom in guys, that's my first effect done. Now I'm going to zoom in. Furthermore, when we look at the adjective, can you guys see the board? I'm gonna rub off the top and I'm gonna carry on from the top. Please don't count this as my time. When we look at the adjective muddle, this garden clearly has no organization. It is similar to a child's toy box, where everything in the box belongs there, but not in that order. As a result, it is clear that this garden is a mess akin to a jungle. Pause there. That was my link. Guys. Oh god, this alarm reminds me of wake up in the morning. That was my link, guys. Where is it? That was my zooming in. And this was the effect of my zooming in. Now, guys, I did move pretty quick. I think I did it in 5 minutes. Now, you gotta bear in mind, I was rubbing off and whatnot, but time was hot. Yeah, I was moving pretty quick. I got a little bit nervous there thinking, damn, you ain't gonna finish it. But, guys, time is quick. You gotta move. You gotta feel the pressure. Just the way I had to keep moving. And, guys, I promise, I do not rehearse this paragraph. Everything I wrote on the spot. I literally planned over there on the table about 5 minutes ago, the video you guys saw, and now I'm literally on the board writing the paragraph. Now guys, the reason I did this, I didn't have to do this, is because I want you guys to see live what you should be doing. So many of you guys in your exam, right, the time starts, and when my time started, I started writing. A lot of you guys like sitting there looking at the sky. I wonder what I'm gonna eat when I go home. You're very, very relaxed. Your planning is done. Your planning should now catapult you into the writing. Now, yes, as I was writing, I was thinking because I was trying to add a bit of detail, but even then, you don't pause. You don't stop writing. You think as you're writing. You think about, okay, what am I going to say next? What am I going to say next? What am I going to say next? And if your plan is good, that should show in your paragraph. Now, my paragraph, guys, it took me 5 minutes on the dot. I literally finished that line over there. The reason I mentioned the mess was because it links to my point. Now, unfortunately, guys, I would have liked to have the entire paragraph written on the board so I can go through it at each stage. But I don't have the entire paragraph, guys, written on the board because of space. But I do hope you guys are able to kind of go back in the video, copy the paragraph down fully, label it pretzel, and have a look at the entire paragraph as a whole. Your two effects is where, my two effects is where I'm going to be gaining the most amount of marks. Now, guys, if I've made spelling mistakes or if I've made any grammar mistakes, remember, guys, I was writing fast. Number two, you're not marked on SPAG for these questions. And number three, guys, I'm a human being, so please don't be too harsh. And that is it, guys. Two of those. Two of those is what you're aiming for in 5 minutes. 5 minutes on one, 5 minutes on the other, 10 minutes, and you are done. And I genuinely believe this. You guys should be better writers than me because I don't write for a living. I write on the board, I'll be on my phone, but you guys do English, history, geography, science, maths. You're writing throughout your day. You're using your pen, you're using your hand, you're using a book. So the speed should be good. And the speed, guys, also comes with practice, but also with a little seriousness. All right. If you're still watching, guys, I hope you found the video beneficial. Please practice what I just did. I'm not sure how long the video is, but step by step, get an exam question, read it, plan a paragraph, plan 2 paragraphs, write the answer, 5 minutes, 5 minutes. The first time you might not finish it. The second, third, fourth, you will. And I recommend pretzel paragraphs, guys, because I think they're the easiest way to knock off the mark scheme without having to physically and consciously worry about it, because the paragraph structure knocks it off for you. If you're going to be joining, guys, the Easter courses, I will see you there. It's been Mr. Everything English. Peace.